Monsieur Samari's hand up. Monsieur Samari, I will recognize you just after my opening remarks. Welcome to meeting number 52 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Finance. Pursuant to the order of reference of May 10th, 2022, the committee is meeting on Bill C-19, an act to implement certain provisions of the budget tabled in Parliament on April 7th, 2022, and other measures. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of November 25th, 2021. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. Per the directive of the Board of Internal Economy on March 10, 2022, all those attending the meeting in person must wear a mask, except for members who are at their place during proceedings. I would like to make a few comments for the benefits of the witnesses and members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. Interpretation for those on Zoom, you have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. For those in the room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. For members on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best we can, and we appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. Pursuant to the motion adopted in committee on Thursday, May 9th, the committee will proceed today with the clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-19. We have witnesses from various departments that are here with us who will be able to answer questions as we move through the clauses of the bill. Now I'm recognizing Monsieur Saint-Marie, who has his hand up.
Oui, merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Point of order, two things. First of all, you all received the notice of motion that I wanted to present at the beginning of this meeting. So there was unanimous consent at the Human Resources Committee to study Division 32 of Bill C-19, Part 5. And after having discussed this, I wanted to table this motion at a later meeting, so I will do it at a later one. The second thing, you also received an amendment that would replace Bloc Québécois 4. So when we get to that amendment in the meeting, I would ask you, I will table it for Clause 131, and you should have received that amendment. Thank you.
Everybody's received it, members? Yes? Okay. Terrific. So, pursuant to Standing Order 75(1), consideration of Clause 1, short title is postponed, and the Chair calls Clause 2. So, any debate on Clause 2? Okay. On division, I heard. On division, carried on division. Clause 2, okay. So shall Clause 3 carry?
On division.
Carried on division. Shall Clause 4 carry?
On division.
Okay. Carried on division. Shall Clause 5 carry?
On division.
Carried on division. Takes us to Clause 6. In Clause 6, there is an amendment from the Conservatives, CPC 1. You'll find it on page 1 of the amendments. And just members of CPC 1 is adopted or defeated. NDP 1 cannot be moved as they are identical. And MP Stewart?
Sure, yes. This amendment is important. It would be basically having individuals with type 1 diabetes automatically qualify for the disability tax credit. By removing the 14 hours a week for life-sustaining therapy is a no-brainer. This reduces the administrative burden on Canadians and allows their doctors to focus on their treatment rather than completing confusing and arbitrary forms. This amendment is endorsed by both Diabetes Canada and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Further, the intent for the amendment based on a recommendation by the Canadian Revenue Agency's own Disability Advisory Committee, which the government rejected. I am moving this amendment to ensure fairness not only for Canadians with type 1 diabetes in my province of New Brunswick, but from coast to coast to coast. This is a rare opportunity for us in this committee to immediately improve the lives of 300,000 Canadians on a bipartisan basis. Colleagues, it is the right thing to do, and I welcome your support. I wanted to read something. I had support from the JDRF as well as the Diabetes Canada, and I'll just quote from Diabetes Canada, Mr. Andrew Jones, Executive Director, Government Affairs, Policy and Advocacy, Diabetes Canada, and I quote, "We find that the process for eligibility is full of administrative burdens. Patients are required to fill out lengthy forms, communicate with their healthcare professional. Our major concern is around the 14-hour threshold per week. That's arbitrary on what counts in this 14-hour threshold. As I said in my opening statement, we maintain that individuals who are on insulin therapy, life-saving insulin therapy, ought to just simply qualify for the disability tax credit." So that is the end of the quote from Mr. Andrew Jones, Executive Director of Diabetes Canada. And another quote that I have here is from JDRF Canada, and we were fortunate enough, Mr. Chair, to have them appear before the committee on 2 occasions. Dr. Elena Wiseman, endocrinologist, and this is what she had to say, speaking of those suffering with type 1 diabetes, and I quote, "If they were to not administer insulin after a very short period of time, they would be at risk of having a dangerously high blood sugar, potentially leading to avoidable hospitalizations, coma, or even death. Our standard of care is to deliver insulin, as we call it, intensively, which means either through multiple injections per day, with each of those injections needing to be thought about and calculated, or through an insulin pump, which again is still being delivered on a 24-hour basis, still with multiple calculations and adjustments that need to be made each day. Insulin is absolutely a 24-hour life-sustaining therapy. Also note that in type 1 diabetes, there are no other medications approved for treatment. We have one medication, and that is insulin." And that's a quote from Dr. Elena Wiseman. So I move this amendment in clause by clause, and I hope that all members of the committee will support it.
Thank you, MP Stewart. I do have a speaking order here. I've got PS Beach and then MP Blakey. PS Beach. Oh, and then MP Elvis after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, colleagues. Want to wish everybody a happy Monday, and thanks to all the work that members and teams have done over the weekend after receiving the amendments on Friday. I'm looking forward to a thorough, thoughtful analysis of the BIA by all parties, and I'd also like to start my initial remarks on this particular amendment with saying that I really appreciated what Jake just had to say. I would also like to salute the advocacy of Mr. Blakey on this issue, as well as other opposition members, and especially many of my Liberal caucus colleagues, both on this committee and in caucus generally, who have been passionately supporting this type of amendment on behalf of the diabetes community. I've had meetings over the years with children, their families affected by type 1 diabetes. But we have to make sure that we follow proper processes and not just good intentions. And so I want to ask the legislative clerk and the officials present for clarification on this with regards to a procedural matter. Now, I understand that the proposed amendment would be to eligibility criteria for a non-refundable tax credit. But I'm also concerned it would have the direct effect of automatically increasing spending on certain spending measures that base their eligibility on the criteria established for the disability tax credit. Programs such as the Canada Workers Benefit, Disability Supplement, and Canada's Disability Savings Grants, and Canada's Disability Savings Bonds paid to registered disability savings plans. This would create a new draw on the Consolidated Revenue Fund, which Parliament has not approved. I believe in light of this, NDP 1 and CPC 1, this amendment, require a royal recommendation. So could we ask officials to confirm if my understanding is correct? And could they provide their analysis on the admissibility of the amendment as it currently is drafted and presented?
Okay, thank you. PS Beach, we'll go to officials and hear from officials, and then I do have speaking order, MP Blakey, MP Albus, MP Stewart. So officials.
Hi, it's Leslie Taylor from the Tax Policy Branch. I'm uncertain if this would be something for us to talk to, or I see my colleague Trevor from the Legislative Branch here. Just to confirm, PSB, your understanding is the same of ours, having consulted with Council, that this would require a royal recommendation given the direct flow through effects on direct government spending that would be entailed by a change to the disability tax credit criteria. Trevor, did you have anything additional you wanted to say to that?
No, thank you. Actually, that's perfect, and that's my understanding as well, that the effect of the measure would be to eliminate a requirement currently in the rules, which would naturally tend to increase amounts drawn from the CRS, Consolidated Revenue Fund, and that would be tantamount to additional government spending. So those are the factual underpinnings of the I believe the comment that it would require a royal recommendation. But of course, that's not for officials to decide.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Taylor, Mr. McGowan. And so just before the clerk, we're going to hear from the members, and members may have a number of questions. So we have MP Blakey up next.
Okay, so I guess I do want to speak to the substance of the amendment, but I'm intrigued a little bit by some of the procedural questions. Now, currently, the chair hasn't ruled that this is out of order. So I'm just wondering about the appropriateness of having a debate on the substance of a motion if its validity has been called into question and we don't have a ruling on whether it is in fact in order. And then second, my understanding, and I could be wrong, but advice on whether a royal recommendation is required would normally come from House of Commons officials, not departmental officials. So I think until we hear it from House of Commons officials and there's I'm happy to get the opinion of a departmental official on the weather too, but I don't think that it's really germane to our procedural conversations as the House of Commons what departmental officials think, with all due respect to them, who I think indicated as much. So I'm just looking for a little direction from you, Mr. Chair, as to whether or not there's a ruling pending, or if you haven't ruled because you're satisfied that it's in order and we can move on to the substantive debate.
So as we go through the process, thank you, MP Blakey. We're hearing from officials. We did hear from PS Beach. I have been conferring with the legislative clerk, and before making my ruling, and I will hear from all the members, and then go back to the legislative clerk and be able to inform the members if it is admissible or not admissible.
The opportunity then to speak to the substance of the amendment and await your ruling on whether it'll be in order or not. But I do think that it's an important amendment, and as has surfaced in a couple different ways so far, when I had inquired about a similar intent, the legislative drafters produced an identical amendment. So it's something I'm very happy to support here at this table. It's something that I think is worth doing. And I think is a down payment on some larger reform to the disability tax credit eligibility, which has by no means been a problem only for people with type 1 diabetes, but has been problematic in a number of different ways, and is Mr. Beach has highlighted, you know, it matters for all sorts of reasons, including people's eligibility for other programs. On the question of whether it's in order or not, I think it's important to note that, you know, if legislators can't have input on the eligibility criteria for a program, then I really don't know what we can do or what purpose we serve. It seems to me it makes a lot of sense that legislators would be able to weigh in on the program criteria or the eligibility criteria for something like a disability tax credit. And I note also that typically private members are only prevented from being able to have a direct spend or a direct appropriation of funds. I think this is one step removed from something that we wouldn't be able to touch. So here you have the disability tax credit. It's its own program. It operates by actually forgoing taxes. So like, you know, as a private member, I can't impose a new tax. I can't try to appropriate specific funding, but I should be able to weigh in on the eligibility for a tax deduction. And that's really what we're talking about. If other programs choose to tie their eligibility to this eligibility, then that's a decision that's been made either by legislators or by government itself and is incidental to the subject matter that we're dealing with now, which is what do you have to do in order to get access to the disability tax credit. Those other programs have said whatever the eligibility criteria are, that's what we're hitching our wagon to. So I don't think the fact that government has decided elsewhere to proxy in eligibility for the disability tax credit should mean that legislators no longer have any right to weigh in on the eligibility for the disability tax credit. I think that would be a strange and perverse outcome that governments could certainly abuse in order to lock in eligibility criteria for all sorts of things. There's a private member's motion that actually has been incorporated in this bill to establish a new tax credit for tradespeople who are moving around for work. You could argue in a similar way, as has been argued here today, that that's a government expenditure in the sense that the government will now be forgoing tax revenue. But in fact, those kinds of expenditures, tax expenditures, are something that private members are clearly able to establish. All you have to do is survey the private member bill landscape over the last number of parliaments to see how many members of parliament bring forward tax deduction schemes as part of their private members' business. And those are not typically, there isn't usually a ruling that says that those would require a royal recommendation. So the fact of government having tied access to other programs to this, I don't think should stand as an argument for legislators not being able to weigh in on the eligibility for the program overall. So that's what I would have to say on the kind of procedural matter. But on the substance of the matter, I don't think there's any doubt. And there has been a lot of good work from members across party lines. And I think my impression anyway is that certainly at some tables, I believe HUMA had this discussion and there was support from all parties to try and do this. I've heard positive expressions of support from members of all parties at various times for this proposal, I believe, at this committee. And if I'm misspeaking, anyone can jump in to correct me that this isn't something that they support. But I've seen what I would call an emerging consensus on this. So I think it'd be unfortunate if a procedural ruling that I'm not sure holds up were to interfere with a cross-party emerging consensus that this is something that's important to do, that would be, I think, as I say, and members can agree or disagree with this part of it, but a down payment on larger DTC reforms that are very much needed in a case where it's very clear that people have a condition that does require time, energy, and resources in order to monitor. That should, in my view, obviously be part of the disability tax credit universe. So I would say let's please allow us to proceed with making this change, both on the procedural side and on the substantive side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, MP Blakey. I have MP Albus, then MP Stewart, then MP Samari with his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to separate my arguments into two fronts. Again, procedural, and then to the substance of the motion itself that my colleague, MP Stewart, has put forward. First of all, on the process. When a member connects with the law clerk, it's been my experience that if there is any conditions about inadmissibility, usually the law clerk flags that to the member, and the member then takes the risk of presented to you, and Mr. Chair, through the clerk. But then that's usually ruled inadmissible right off the bat before there can even be discussion. So I understand that you're on the fence on this one, but usually those things get flagged first. And to be fair, members should be able to put forward motions that and hear from their colleagues as to whether they are inadmissible or not. It does highlight the issue, and it's something that I would fight for any member of any party or an independent to have, because it's our job to be able to present ideas to other members and to have them at least discussed, at that point. And if they're ruled inadmissible, then, Mr. Chair, then it would be ruled out of order. Then someone could challenge the chair if they so chose. So I really hope we don't go down that particular option, Mr. Chair. But I would just simply say that, this subject came up a number of years ago. Mr. McGowan gave a very similar, and I'm not picking on him, he's an honorable public servant, when it came to CPP pension changes that we had suggested, and despite there being no taxpayer money involved, because CPP, as you know, Mr. Chair, is administered at arm's length, and it comes from contributions from employers and employees. It's not tax dollars. Now, this is a bit of a different matter, but quite honestly, why would the government need to have Parliament if parliamentarians couldn't say these are the terms and conditions for being able to apply eligibility for a program? This is the reason why we have Parliament. Sometimes this government believes somehow that it's the decision maker and that we simply just approve everything. We're the ones that represent our constituents. We're the ones, as Parliament, together, that the government is tethered to and has to continue to maintain confidence. So I would strongly suggest that you allow the amendment to come forward. It clearly is admissible. It should be debated. And I find it unfortunate that the government that seeks $750 million in this budget bill to give to municipalities on transit before, the province of Quebec goes to an election. I think it's kind of shocking that they say that it's okay for us to give them very little eligibility criteria for who can apply to that. And now when we're saying, help children with type 1 diabetes to be able to get their disability tax credit, I think that's a bit aghast. Now, I'm going to leave it to my colleague, MP Stewart, to maybe get deeper in on the process, because it is his amendment and he's more than prepared to do that. But what I am going to say just on the actual motion itself, Mr. Chair, similar to what MP Blakey had suggested. Look, we've all talked to young people who, through Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, Diabetes Canada, we've heard from people that are suffering from it, the families, and how they deal with it. I just want people to be mindful of this, is that CRA has in the past held up the admissibility or eligibility for someone when they receive the disability tax credit when they're minor, they turn 18, and suddenly they aren't eligible anymore. What I've heard from my constituents, and I'll simply call the Finlander family, for example, in West Kelowna, their daughter has diabetes, and it's indicated to me that they want their parliamentarians to work together because, Mr. Chair, across this country, there's a lot of great things in this country, but different provinces have different programs when it comes to assisting people with diabetes. Some are more generous, and some are, frankly, less than generous, Mr. Chair. And one of the most frustrating parts is where you see good people from provinces that do not get the same level of support from their provincial government. It appears to be unfair to many of these children who say, you know what, it shouldn't matter wherever someone is, they should be able to receive the same kind of support. And what we're debating here today, Mr. Chair, is to make a program, a federal program that applies to everyone who is eligible for it, to make that process as fair and easily accessible with some constraints. The 14 hours, it's been pointed out, has some challenges for people. So what we're trying to do is make it easier on the federal level. And someone gave me some wise advice where they said, Dan, you can't always make life easy, but you can always try to make things easier. This is a small, tangible way. The last thing I'm going to say, Mr. Chair, is to remind members that the disability tax credit is one thing. As my colleague said, it's a non-refundable tax credit. But what it also is so vital about this program, it is the gateway to receive a disability disability retirement savings plan. And so it allows for children and adults to put money away and to have that money grow for tax-free reasons until they grow old. Oftentimes they may not get the same opportunities to work and to save for their own pension and can then supplement their income in their old age. So the challenge we have is that many young people with diabetes are eligible for the DTC up until they turn 18. Then the CRA rules them under this rule as being inadmissible. The problem with that is now the disability retirement savings plan that was set up in their name now becomes forfeit. They have to close the account, and the government takes the monies that were put into it as grants, and then they have to pay tax on any interest earned on in the investment or savings in that. So, Mr. Chair, I'm just pointing out this is not just about giving people more or saving more of their money. This gives Canadians, especially those young people, the ability to save for their retirement, and they are ineligible for that retirement savings plan if they do not have access to the DTC. So I would just ask all honorable members, we may not be able to make everything easy for people that have type 1 diabetes, but across this country, with this amendment, we can start to make it a little bit easier and allow people to focus on their health and to focus on saving for their retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Albus. Members, we've heard some great discussion here. Yeah, I know, MP Stewart, I do have you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to suspend for a couple of minutes to confer with the legislative clerk, and then I'll come back to members. Okay.
I'd like to speak first.
Okay. So, members, I have conferred with the clerk. I did have still some others on the speaking order. I had MP Stewart and MP Samari just before I bring my ruling. Yeah, MP Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, this is a very important amendment to a lot of Canadian citizens that have type 1 diabetes. And as parliamentarians, we come here and a lot of the time we debate finances and money, and this is actually something we can do that's really good, that will actually help a large group of people across the nation. And I think that goes without saying, and this is the type of amendment that should have all party support. I want to talk a little bit about the fact that I submitted this 12 days ago. Constitutional lawyers were sought in the preparation for it. As National Revenue Shadow Critic, I had to get support from my party. I achieved it, as well as the members of the committee.
How's that?
Achieved support from the...
So thanks. I don't have anything to add on the policy side of things. I just wanted to for a.
What is this?
No. He doesn't know he's on. It was an accident. No.
Yeah.
Someone was not on.
So anyway, so Mr. Chair, I'm going to read to you a couple really important facts about the fact that this went in 12 days ago. It went through the shadow ministers' channels, the opposition channels with my party, of course, with the members of the Finance Committee, with the clerk's office, with the lawyers that are already on hand, and as I mentioned earlier, constitutional lawyers were acquired to draft this. So now I'm going to read you some very important points, and it will cover all of the questions that we've been hearing. Number one, the disability tax credit is a non-refundable tax credit. It does not require either a royal recommendation per Section 54 of the Constitution Act 1867, which authorizes new spending. Very important fact right there. Number two, because the disability tax credit lowers taxes payable to persons with disabilities, it does not infringe on the financial initiative of the Crown and does not require a Ways and Means motion to authorize the imposition of new taxes. Number three, although there may be certain programs which use the disability tax credit for their eligibility, this is a separate matter which is covered by a different royal recommendation. If this amendment was even remotely inadmissible or somehow out of order, with all of the expertise we have in the House of Commons and with the members of the committee and everyone that's employed on this Hill, it would not take 12 days to tell me that. Believe me. We have a lot of highly intelligent people around here, and we want to keep that good name for the people of this country that are watching at home, that expect the business of government to run in a proficient and an intellectual manner. We know that I've answered every question that was asked beforehand. We need to support this to help people with type 1 diabetes. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Stewart, and thank you for your passion, for your hard work, and what you've done to bring us here. I'm just going to go to MP Samari before I give my ruling, because he's had his hand up for quite a while. MP Samari.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was convinced of the importance of this amendment when we heard witnesses on the subject. I was very affected by the witnesses, the testimony we heard, so I want to vote for this amendment. And I also want to raise my hat to Mr. Stewart for all of the work that he has done with this amendment. I think it's the kind of thing that we are called upon to do at the Finance Committee to improve the Budget Implementation Acts. And I also want to salute Mr. Blakey, who tabled the same amendment. So this is one, Mr. Stewart's, but also Mr. Blakey's. So I will be voting for them. And I really don't see why this amendment would be found to be inadmissible by you, Mr. Chairman. And so I call on your good judgment to do the right thing. Thank you, Mr. Sainte-Marie.
Thank MP Blakey, yes, MP Stewart, and really all MPs that have come before this committee in terms of speaking to this very important measure, and in terms of the how the disease affects so many people, especially our young people with type 1 diabetes. Members, but after my discussions with the legislative clerk, I'm ready to give my ruling on the procedural admissibility of Amendment CPC 1. As House of Commons Procedure and Practice, third edition states on page 772, since an amendment may not infringe upon the financial initiative of the Crown, it is inadmissible if it imposes a charge on the public treasury, or if it extends the objects or purposes or relaxes the conditions and qualifications specified in the royal recommendation. Based on the information provided by the officials, the chairs, and the opinion that the amendment could impose a change on the public treasury, therefore I rule the amendment inadmissible.
Point of order.
Amendment NDP 1 is also inadmissible since it is identical.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Over here. Yep. I wish to challenge the ruling of the chair.
Yep.
The question is, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? If you are in agreement with the chair's ruling, you vote yes, and if you are against the chair's ruling, you vote no. Mr. Baker.
I vote to sustain the chair.
Mr. Beach.
Sustain the chair.
Madame Chatel.
Sustain.
Mr. Fragiscatos.
To sustain.
Mr. McDonald.
Sustain.
Mr. Albus.
No.
Mr. Chambers.
No.
Mr. Lawrence.
No.
Mr. Stewart.
No.
Monsieur Sainte-Marie.
Je conteste.
Mr. Blakey.
No.
Yeas pour 5, 5, nays contre 6, 6.
Okay, so the decision has been overturned, and the amendment is open for debate. Again, members. Nope. Okay, so we'll proceed to the vote. So shall...
We have hands virtually.
I do. Sorry, I did not see those hands, and I apologize for not looking at the screen. So I have MP Beach, MP Baker, and then MP MacDonald.
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Jake for bringing this motion forward, as well as Mr. Blakey, and for all members of Parliament, and look very forward to supporting this amendment.
Okay, MP Baker.
Yeah, I wanted to echo that. I think that, I had a chance to meet with folks who are advocating on this cause from JDRF. I think it's important that we provide support to people who are struggling with diabetes, and we have to make note of the fact that this is something that affects people in many cases from a very young age and throughout their lives. So thank you for all the advocacy. I do want to note that in addition to the members of the committee who've been mentioned, a number of members of caucus, of the government caucus, have been active in advocating on this issue, as I think Mr. Beach alluded to earlier on. So it's good to see MPs on all sides advocating, and I look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got MP MacDonald and then MP Albus.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to echo those words as well. I think everybody around this table is extremely pleased with and give much credit to Mr. Blakey and Mr. Stewart on the work that they've done. I know in my previous life, it was always an issue with, we have about 1,000 Islanders that have type 1 diabetes, and I have two representatives, one in my riding that works for Diabetes Canada, and another young man, Brooks Roach, who actually has type 1 diabetes, who's been a strong advocate on Prince Edward Island. And, I think we're all in this business to do better, and I think we find a way to ensure that this amendment passes and we move forward. And we know that there's been some investments, obviously, from this government relevant to $35 million in the 2021 budget for research a framework for diabetes. But I think there's more needs to be done, and this is certainly an amendment that I can support and I will support, and I appreciate all the work that you've done, Mr. Stewart and Mr. Blakey. Thank you.
Thank you, MP McDonald. MP Albus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank all members who've espoused their support for this amendment. I'd like particularly to thank MP Stewart for championing. He's done a tremendous job in listening to many of the organizations, both here at committee but also offline, and I know his constituents are well served by that. I also want to thank members who spoke up about the need for members of Parliament to assert themselves. You know what? Our system is dedicated on the fact that we come from our ridings and that we can make decisions. If members of Parliament want to see changes in this place, we have to stand in our place and say no to the government, or sometimes tell them that we want yes. So for those members that stood up today to not necessarily agree with the government and to assert our rights as members of Parliament, thank you.
Thank you, MP Albus. And I think that's it for the speakers. MP Chambers, we're...
Oh, are you see? Like we're...
No. So we'll move to shall clause...
CPC 1.
Oh, CPC 1. Yeah, CPC 1. Carry.
Yes.
Yes.
Members, yes. Okay, carried. Okay, and that will capture NDP 1.
Yes.
Yep.
And we go to shall clause 6
Yep.
as amended.
Okay, and shall clause 6 as amended carry.
Yes.
Okay. Carried on division. Okay, members, we are at, members, there are no amendments submitted between clauses 7 to 15 that are part of part 1 of the bill. So I don't know if members would like to, I'm asking to see if members would agree to unanimous consent to grouping those 7 to 15.
On division.
On division? Carried on division. Okay, 7 to 15. Okay, clause 16. There's an amendment from the Conservatives. So, in a note, so if a note to members, if CPC 2 is adopted, Block 1 and NDP 2 cannot be moved as they amend the same line. And I've got MP Lawrence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I've spent extensive time consulting with stakeholders with respect to the charitable sector, and they have incredible frustration with the current status of the law, respecting the contributions of charities to non-qualified entities, such as NGOs. It creates both international and domestic challenges. When they heard that the budget was going to take in place, the spirit of Senator Almavar's private members bill 216, they were excited. However, their excitement was quickly dashed by the overly prescriptive nature, and that's what clause 16 seeks to fix. It takes the prescriptive nature of the BIA and turns it into a more reasonable set of circumstances that puts the onus on the charities to conduct their business within their charitable scope and also to do so in accountable, transparent ways. But what it doesn't do is create an overly prescriptive rules that will create a legal fiction or will just stop charitable work altogether. In short, Mr. Chair, this amendment will allow more good people to do more good work. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Lawrence. I do have a speaking order here. I've got MP Samari and then MP Beach.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're talking about CPC 2, and there's also Block 1 and NPDP 2. So I agree with all three proposals. I obviously have a preference for my amendment, which would delete 2 lines, or as Mr. D'Entremont would say, I. But it would be the 2B, 3 small i's. I think it would be simpler to use my amendment. But if the colleagues around the table prefer CPC 2, I would be ready to vote in favor of it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Saint-Marie.
Members may know or may not know that the way it is done is the way that it is received. So as we receive those amendments to the clerk, so whatever comes in first, that is the order that they are kept in. Now I've got MP Beach and MP Blakey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I had the opportunity to articulate earlier in the House, our government is supportive of the spirit of S216. I've had the opportunity to work with the senator personally, and I think I thank actually all members around the table from all parties for the work to try and make sure that we get this right. There is a balance between allowing greater freedom to do better work and less administration, but also protecting what is a very generous tax receipting program that Canada has. My preference is with NDP 2, and this motion would prevent that, as the clerk stated when introducing CPC 2. And so that would actually have me oppose CPC 2, CPC 3, Block 1 and Block 2, but support NDP 2. And if we got that far, Block 3, CPC 4, and NDP 3 are essentially the same, and I would support that as well. And so I believe that strategy is the right one to go. I believe that it has the general support of those individuals that have been involved, kind of bringing this to the government's attention in the first place. I believe it respects the spirit of the bill, and that's the way I'll be voting. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Beach, and now we'll hear from MP Blakey, and then MP Lawrence.
Thank you very much. So, I mean, we're essentially, I think we've got a number of amendments before us, not just for this clause, but in a few clauses coming up that will deal with the subject matter of what is currently Bill S216. My preference is for NDP 2, and I'm confident, given the Parliamentary Secretary's remarks, that will pass. So my intention will be to vote against the other amendments in the package, with the exception of CPC 4, which I take to be a complementary amendment, both not just to Mr. Lawrence's own amendment here, but to my own. And that's how I intend to vote on these items. And I think that in doing so, we can create or provide a substantial solution to what was clearly a problem with the way the Budget Implementation Act was worded. And so I want the committee to know that that's how I intend to proceed.
Thank you, MP Blake. I have MP Lawrence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I would like to thank all members for their constructive comments. What I would say is that we have had a number of lawyers, experts, constitutional lawyers review this amendment, and they are of the firm belief that this actually instills sufficient controls and transparency and accountability, and actually enhances the ability of the CRA to take corrective action where necessary. And so it outlines a number of key important issues. But since the parties, and I think rightfully so, have brought up the other related amendments, and I'll just use ours for the ease of numbering. But we basically have 3 amendments here, 2, 3, and 4 of CPC, and I think similar NDP numbers. The Parliamentary Secretary Beach said that he couldn't take 3 if he didn't accept 2. I don't think that's necessarily true because CPC 3 is completely unrelated to 2. And if he were to look positively on CPC 3, perhaps we could get some agreement on 2 as well. So I would just put it over to Parliamentary Secretary Beach if he'd be willing to comment on that, whether the government, and this 3 is absolutely critical as well, Mr. Chair, because it allows for directed giving. So right now, the way the legislation is drafted, you could potentially be offside if you went to the United Way and said to United Way, or the United Way said to you, we want to give this to the Ukraine fund within the United Way. And so we are going to, if we do not accept CPC 3, we have significant issues for the charitable sector. And there's no sort of partisan angle to this whatsoever. It's just legislation that makes sense. And so would very much like agreement to I understand we all have agreement to 4, but if we get agreement to 3 as well, perhaps we could make a move on the second amendment.
Thank you, MP Lawrence. I do see MP Beach's hand up. MP
Yes,
Beach?
just to respectfully respond to my colleague. My initial comment was regards to CPC 2 and NDP 2, not necessarily CPC 3, although I did comment on that in my remarks as well. And of course, we're gonna get to that after the vote on this. But I hear what you're saying. I think my position is the same, though.
Okay, thank you. Any further debate? No? Okay, MP Albus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think one of the big challenges we have here is, again, the government has moved first with its own bill without properly consulting and trying to really capture the spirit of the senator's bill. And that's the challenge here, is that the government is, again, trying to look like it is doing something in alignment with a very popular initiative. And the reason why it's popular is because charities want to do good work. They want to be able to deliver services in a more efficient and accountable manner. But the problem is, if you're spending all the time dealing with red tape and doing it in a prescriptive approach, they aren't able to help people who are in need when they need it. So I would just encourage all members to support this particular change. MP Lawrence, to his credit, has met with the charitable sector multiple times outside of the committee and did an admirable job of raising some of the concerns by the charitable sector in regards to the original drafting of Bill C-19. It did not capture what the spirit of the senator's bill. So I would just suggest that rather than playing catch-up, instead we just deliver exactly what the charitable sector is wanting, which is the senator's bill in this BIA.
Thank you, MP Albus. Members, so shall CPC 2 carry?
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote, clerk.
Mr. Baker,
Opposed.
Mr. Beach,
No.
Madame Châtel,
Opposed.
Mr. Fragiscaros,
Against.
Mr. McDonald,
Opposed.
Mr. Albus,
Yes.
Mr. Chambers,
Oui.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Monsieur Sainte-Marie,
Oui.
Mr. Blakey.
Nay.
Nays contre 6, yeas pour 5.
It's defeated. Shall, members, we're moving to the next amendment. And just seeing anybody's hands on this, any discussion, so shall block 1 carry?
Je vais demander le
sorry,
vote
did I
aussi.
see? Oh, MP Samari? Oui?
Oui, je vais demander le vote.
I wanted to present my arguments on this now.
Simplement pour...
Just to say that I'm asking for the vote. Thank you.
Merci.
Read the note.
Okay. So if Block 1 is adopted, NDP 2 cannot be moved as they amend the same line. And now we'll go to shall Block 1 carry? We'll go to a recorded vote. Clerk?
Mr. Baker,
Opposed.
Mr. Beach,
Opposed.
Madame Châtel,
No.
Mr. Fredericatos,
Against.
Mr. McDonald,
Opposed.
Mr. Albus,
Ooh.
Mr. Chambers,
For.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Monsieur Sainte-Marie,
En faveur.
Mr. Blakey.
Nay.
Yeas pour 5, 5. Nays contre 6, 6.
Okay, it's defeated. And now we're going to NDP 2. MP Blakey?
Thank you very much. So, very much in the spirit of what's already been said, I do think we have some language here that we've likewise run by folks in the industry and the senator who's sponsoring S216, Senator Almidvar. And so I'd like to put that language to the committee now in the hopes that we may be able to pass some wording that I do think strikes a good balance between the need for accountability on the one hand, but also the need for some more flexibility than the charitable sector has enjoyed in the past. And so it's in that spirit that I present this amendment, and I look forward to the vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, MP Blakey. So shall NDP 2 carry?
Yay.
Oui.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I like
Carried.
Daniel, yes.
Carried. Moving forward, shall clause 16 carry? As amended, yes.
On division?
Carried on division. Okay, so there are no amendments, members submitted to clauses 17 to 20. So clauses 17 to 20 are all in part 1 of the bill. And do we have unanimous consent to group those together? So,
On division, but only on division.
okay, on division, carried on division, members, yeah.
Mr. Point of order, Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
sorry, I see MP Beach, and I apologize.
Sorry, I'm just for my own clarification. So we voted on NDP 2. Did everybody just agree to either accept CPC 4 or one of the other clauses? I mean, I missed it because I wasn't in the room, perhaps.
You're in the wrong clause, Terry. We're coming to that still.
Right.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you, Daniel.
We voted on, so NDP 2, we voted on clause 16 as amended was carried, and now, members, what I was bringing forward with there, as I said, there were no amendments submitted to clauses 17 to 20. And I believe that we had it was carried on division. Okay, clause 21. There is amendment from the Conservatives, and just a note here, members, if CPC 3 is adopted, Block 2 cannot be moved as they are identical. MP Lawrence, would you like to speak to and or move your amendment?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to move my amendment, and that's by way of explanation. This will ensure that the Income Tax Act does not prohibit donors giving to support programs of registered charities where the registered charity satisfies the own activity test or makes a qualifying disbursement. In other words, where a gift is made within a subset of charitable activities, that this won't be prohibited by the BIA. And as I said earlier, this could cause substantial issues and challenges for individuals and charities that want to give money within the charitable purpose. So you can't, with this legislation, you couldn't direct it to non-charitable purposes, so it'll stay within the mandate. But for example, as I said, if in fact you want to donate to within a subset, say benefiting Ukrainian orphans, this legislation could arguably put that offside, which will create challenges. It's a relatively simple, minor amendment that will clarify the legislation and make life easier for charities. So thank you.
Thank you, MP Lawrence. I do see MP Somebody's hand up. And just again, I'll just make the note, if CPC 3 is adopted or defeated, Block 2 cannot be moved as they are identical. And MP Somebody.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that's it. Block 2 is word for word the same amendment. So obviously I'm going to vote in favor of this, of CPC 3. And Mr. Lawrence well explained the reasons why we should support it. And as you said, it's the first amendment that comes in that is made a priority. So I have to admit that Mr. Lawrence is much faster than me. He's just as fast as Buzz Lightyear. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
See MP Somebody.
Thank you, Mr. Sainte-Marie.
Yeah, MP Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologies, members, for getting lost in clauses early. I thought the chair was rushing ahead. So standing by my previous comments on this and concerns around technical issues, we'll be voting against CPC 3, but looking forward to CPC 4.
Thank you, MP Beach. And no, I was not looking to move quickly, as I know members like to move quickly on their amendments because that's how they come
Mr.
in
Chair.
order. But I was not trying to do that. MP Albus.
I just want to defend your honor here.
Oh.
You were running a tight ship, and unfortunately, the parliamentary secretary must have been distracted on Twitter.
All right, thank you. So where are we here now? So, yep, shall CPC 3 carry?
Yes.
Members, yes?
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote.
Mr. Baker,
Opposed.
Mr. Beach,
Opposed.
Madame Châtel,
No.
Mr. Fragiscatos,
Against.
Mr. McDonald,
Opposed.
Mr. Albus,
From the heart out, we.
Mr. Chambers,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Monsieur Sainte-Marie,
Oui.
Mr. Blakey.
Yay.
Yeas pour 5, 5, nays contre 6, 6.
Okay, it's defeated, so now we will move to 21, yeah. Shall clause 21 carry? Members, shall clause 21 carry?
On division?
Carried on division, members? Yep. Okay. So, members, there are no amendments submitted to clauses 22 to 39. Clauses 22 to 39 are all in part 1 of the bill. And again, do we have unanimous consent to group them for a vote?
On division.
Okay. Carried on division.
Life easier, Peter.
Well,
Just remember that.
merci, MP Albus. Okay. Now we are at clause 40. There is clause 40. There's an amendment from the Conservatives and members. If CPC 4 is adopted or defeated, Block 3 and NDP 3 cannot be moved as they are identical. And I have MP Lawrence. Do you wish to move the amendment?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I do, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your excellent chairmanship. So this is a complementary to the amendment already made by MP Blakey. It also would have my earlier one. But the critical part about this is instead of codifying things in tight prescriptive regulation, it gives CRA the autonomy to release guidance. And as anyone who has any experience in the charitable sector knows, of course, it is a very broad, very wide swath. And so by locking charities into a particular codification of tight prescriptive regulations, you will create a very challenging set of circumstances for the sector. And that is why we have brought this to remove those tight, overly prescriptive regulations and instead give CRA the autonomy to provide guidance and support the charitable sector instead of instead of providing prescriptive regulations, which will create nothing but challenges for the charitable sector. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Lawrence. Let's see any other members wanting to speak to this? No? Okay, so shall CPC 4 carry?
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote, clerk?
Mr. Baker,
In favor.
Mr. Beach,
En faveur.
Madame Chatel,
Oui.
Mr. Fragiscatos,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Albus,
Yes.
Mr. Chambers,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Saint-Marie,
Oui.
Mr. Blakey.
Yay.
Yeas pour 11, 11, nays contre 0, none.
Carried. Okay, shall clause 40 as amended carry?
On division.
Carried on division. Okay, members, there are no amendments submitted to clauses 41 to 51. Clauses 41 to 51 are all in part 1 of the bill. Again, do we have unanimous consent to group them for a vote?
On division, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So shall clauses 41 to 51 carry on division? On division.
Division.
Okay. Through here. Members, there are no amendments submitted to clauses 52 and 53. Clauses 52 and 53 are the only two clauses in Part 2 of the bill. And do we have unanimous consent to group them for a vote?
On division.
Okay, so on division, shall clauses 52 and 53 carry? Carried on division. Members, there are no amendments submitted to clauses 54 to 130. And clauses 54 to 130 are all in Part 3 of the bill. Do we have unanimous consent to group them for a vote?
On division.
We have unanimous consent for that. Okay, so shall clauses 54 to 130 carry on division?
On division.
Carried on division. Okay, let me just go through. Okay, this brings us to clause 131. 131, there is an amendment from the block. And where do I have that? So it's block number 4? Yes, block number 4. Oh, yeah. And I do see Monsieur Saint-Marie's hand up. Monsieur
Oui,
Saint-Marie.
merci, Monsieur le
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as I said in my point of order at the beginning of the meeting, rather than looking at the BQ4 as drafted, I'm going to present an amendment that has been slightly changed and then was distributed earlier today. So I'll take the time to read it and then explain about the substance of it and the form. That Bill C-19 in Clause 131 be amended by replacing lines 15 to 19 on page 106 with the following. 3. Subsection 1 does not apply to wine. A, that is produced by an individual for their personal use and that is consumed in the course of that use, or B, that is produced in Canada from honey or apples and composed wholly of agricultural or plant products grown in Canada. 2, subsection 1 applies after June 29th, 2022. And obviously that part could be changed given the amendments that would follow. So we have Australia, which has came after Canada for excise taxes in wine, and it was for grape wine. It wasn't an issue of wine made with honey. they talked about the high production costs and the degree to which the industry felt that excise tax and how it could limit their growth and development. So in my opinion, it's not a big thing to adopt this amendment, which would allow us to fall in line with Australian grape wine producers. So I think it would be the logical thing to do. As for its being in order, we're not creating any tax, we're not expanding the scope of the law, the legislation, and we're amending something that's already open. So I think the committee members here, we had cider and honey mead producers told us before the committee here how it could affect them, and the problem just is that Ottawa confuses wine and made with apples or honey with wine made with grapes, and this is an effort to solve that problem, and I think it's quite in order. So I invite all of my colleagues to support this amendment, to support our cider and mead producers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Sainte-Marie.
PS Beach and MP Albus up. PS Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Gabriel, for this new version of BQ4, this amended version. The language itself is very similar to the language of the previously circulated Block 4 amendment, which I understand would have required a royal recommendation, as it would infringe on the Crown's prerogative on taxation and revenues. Similar concern discussed previously, as members know. I also believe and would like to point out that it's our belief that the motion would bring Canada in contravention of a previous WTO ruling. I think I'd like to ask officials, given that the motion is very similar to Block 4, I'd like to ask two things, actually. I'd like to ask official and of two groups, the officials and the legislative clerk. Does this new version require a royal recommendation, and for a rationale, whichever way that is decided?
From the officials, if somebody has some information that they can impart on us.
Hi. I can
Mr.
speak
Tsa?
for the officials.
Yes.
Our view is that royal recommendation is not likely required, but that's for the House of Commons and the clerk.
Okay. Any other officials or? No? Okay. Clerk? So conferring with the legislative clerk, it is admissible. It would be admissible. MP Beach, and now I've got MP Albus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate you giving the clarity on that, because I would have hate to gone through now a procedural rabbit hole, to discuss about the admissibility rather than actually talking about the substance of the motion. So I'd like to thank MP Sainte-Marie for bringing this forward. Look, I'm no fan of how the government absolutely botched the WTO challenge and capitulated to Australia, but they did. The only thing is they didn't properly look at the law. And now it's members of Parliament that are having to hear from witnesses that say, look, the cider industry, both the Association for Canada as well as the provincial one for Quebec, the honey mead producers, all of them came in and said, look, we are stuck under the same banner as wine. And I will tell you, Mr. Chair, the economics of the cider industry and the meat industry, as was put out by those associations, is incredibly different. And unfortunately, by lumping them into the same regime as wine, Unfortunately, the government has set up that particular industry, those respective industries, for failure, much as they have with the Canadian wine sector. Now, the wine sector has challenges with it. They understand what the government gave up. They are still hoping that the government will come good on its word to make them whole. That's something that is yet to be seen. But let's stop damaging our growing industries. The cider industry, they utilize product, local product. The same goes for the mead producers. Let's allow them to grow, because those mead producers, as you might remember, as we had the Mead Association from Quebec, said that they are not at the same scale as a brewery or as a winery. They are very small scale production. Costs are high, and adding excise would be extremely damaging. The same goes ditto for the cider industry, one that has been showing some promise. And I, again, would just hate to see us starting to rely on American product to make up for the fact that Canadian tax regime, the excise tax increases here, would force them to use cheaper and often products that are not from this country. So if we really want to support farmers, if we really want to support the value-added sector that has come from, whether it be the mead or the cideries, let's support this amendment and try to undo some of the potential damage that could and most likely will happen if this amendment does not pass. So I ask all honorable members, just vote in favor of this. It's not going to be a tremendous amount on the government. And, you know, when that industry is maybe a little bit bigger, the government should probably start maybe paying attention to them. But let's, at this point, let's just do no harm.
Thank you, MP Albus. I do see MP Sainte-Marie's hand up.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the subject of the conflict before the WTO, I want to remind you that for Australia, what is at the issue here is wine that's made with grapes. And on that subject, the government of Quebec said to the Australian government that there was a distinction to be made between honey mead, and that they had an agreement with Quebec on that. The distinction has been made. So what we're asking is that Ottawa do the same thing as Quebec did, not mix up mead and cider with wine made with grapes. So there's no problem with Australia in terms of honey, mead rather, and cider. What we're asking the government to do is to make that distinction between these products and wine made with grapes. And as Mr. Albus said, in order to support those two industries, which are so important. So there's no problem in supporting this amendment and supporting our cider and mead producers. It would not contravene anything, it would have nothing to do with the WTO ruling, because Australia has already agreed with Quebec on the subject. And if this amendment is defeated, we're saying that cider and mead will pay the price for it because we're cutting corners or not doing our job properly. It's our job to support them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Sainte-Marie.
As a final comment on
no,
this?
I just wanted to note in the attendance of the room, we have MP Ben Lobb from Huron-Bruce, who has championed excise reduction for spirits. So I'm just glad that he's here because he knows so much about this particular role, and I do hope that MP Lobb, I'm lobbying him, that he will support this as well.
Thank you, MP Albus, and welcome, MP Lobb. And now members shall... oh, I do see MP Blakey's hand up. Yes, MP Blakey.
Je voulais juste dire un merci.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Sainte-Marie for his amendment and for his clarification in terms of the WTO ruling and the dispute with Australians concerning grape wine specifically. And I agree that it makes no sense to treat our ciders and other products that are not wines, grape wines as such, and particularly if this is going to harm an industry that has been quite successful in Canada. So I will be happy to support his amendment. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Blakey.
I don't think I see any further hands. So shall Block 4 carry, members?
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote, clerk.
Mr. Baker,
Opposed.
Mr. Beach,
Opposed.
Madame Châtel,
Opposed.
Mr. Fragiscaros,
Opposed.
Mr. McDonald,
Opposed.
Mr. Albus,
In favor.
Mr. Chambers,
Very in favor.
Mr. Lobb,
Yay.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Monsieur Sainte-Marie,
En faveur.
Mr. Blakey.
Yay.
Yeas pour 6, nays contre 5, 5.
Okay, carried. So members shall clause 131 as amended carry.
On division?
Okay, carried on division. Okay, members shall clause 132 carry.
On division?
Carried on division. Now, clause 133, there is amendment from the Conservatives. MP Albus, do you wish to move that amendment and
Yes.
speak to it?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move CPC 5. This particular amendment is to delay the implementation of the excise regime for wine, for example, to push it back until January 1st, 2023. As we know, COVID-19 has been extremely difficult and for many businesses. But imagine if you are a vintner, you've put up, you've waited 5 years for your grapes to grow. You've been able to cultivate them, to bottle them, to do all the labeling and market the product, and then find out that you have the most profitable area, your cellar door, has been slammed shut because of COVID. And so many small and medium-sized wineries have taken such tremendous damage because tourism, as you know, Mr. Chair, has dried up, and many people were loath to even go out, even if wineries were able to be open. So this is a sector that has also been hit especially hard by supply shortages. And so those supply chains, particularly for bottles, has been a huge challenge. Now, the government, in capitulating to the Australians, would say, well, we said we would have it done by July 1st. Well, COVID has happened, the supply chains have happened, and if you don't bottle by June, the end of June, essentially, you have to pay excise on existing inventory that is in your wine barrels. And because it's not bottled, they will have to pay, and they will take a major hit. The government is already reining in all sorts of revenues due to higher oil prices, higher inflation. Its user fees, which are also linked to inflation, are bringing in more revenue than they've ever had. And quite honestly, I know some liberals might say, well, wait a second, we agreed to do this. Well, you agreed to do this, first of all, without talking to the industry. You made the decision. And second of all, the Australians challenged it in the WTO because they were standing up for their industry. Now, this is the opportunity for us all to stand up for ours, to give them a little more time so that they can get their bottles, so that they can bottle them. This is not a huge ask. If members want to say it's all about following through with our word, you know what? I would simply suggest that if you say to the Australians that we are deferring this to give the industry a little bit of breathing room, they would understand. Why? Well, let me just explain one thing just so members can understand. There is one vintage of one particular company in Australia that the scale is larger than the entire wine industry put together, big and small. One vintage from Australia. They are major international players. And so when the government, when Bill Morneau, the former finance minister, came to this committee and I asked him if he'd done any economic assessment on the excise escalator, he said no. When we asked about the trade implications, he said they hadn't considered them. So all of this is stemmed from the government continuing to mismanage this file. So all we are asking for here, Mr. Chair, in this amendment is simply to give a little breathing room to the industry, allow them to bottle so that these small and medium-sized wineries are not hit with a CRA excise bill, something that they've never had to pay, many of them, in their existence, while the government gives them that time. And the government can also then introduce its replacement program that it has been talking about for 2 years and has yet to unveil to industry. So this is a win-win for our industry. The Australians will just be satisfied because they are getting ultimately what they want. They're getting, where Canadian premium product is at the same level playing field as Australians, although I would actually fight anyone to say that, because the Australians have huge support, as do the Americans, as do the French, as do the Spanish, for their wine industry, that pales in comparison to what we do with the Canadian wine industry. Now, that's what my intervention is. While I have the floor, Mr. Chair, I just would like to ask the officials a question pertaining to this section, if that's all right.
MP Albus,
Yeah.
That's your right.
So thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So to officials, in 2017, as I mentioned, the federal government introduced basically legislation to automatically increase beer, wine, and spirits excise duty rates on April 1st of every year. And obviously that was with an index to CPI. Now, with monthly CPI inflation now exceeding 6%, these same brewers, wineries, and distilleries are looking at an excise duty rate increase next April that could be in the 6 to 7% range at a time when production costs are already soaring. And that obviously is leading to higher prices, which means less pickup. So my question for the officials is, are you rethinking the automatic CPI approach to taxation, given that the environment is completely changed? And if so, will you be recommending to the Finance Minister's office for next year's increase to be deferred, so to provide Canadian consumers, but also our beverage alcohol producers, some much-needed relief from these annual increases?
Thank you, MP Albus. I believe we have one of the officials, Mr. Darren Sa.
Hi, yes, I can say at this time that we have not been looking into changing the inflation adjustment measures. I can also say probably just as a question or point about the proposed amendment, it might be attempting to amend the wrong section. The proposed amendment that we have looks to amend clause 133, but I think MP Albus is trying to amend clause 132.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, if you could just give us 2 minutes so we can confirm that, I would appreciate that. Because it would be a simple amendment. I would just want to make sure that we have that correct.
Okay. And you're certain about that, Mr. Sa?
At least what we received showed that the amendment was proposed for clause 133, which is the relief for the non-alcoholic beer, but it is 132 that is the wine measure.
We're going to suspend just for a minute, members. Just before you have the floor, MP Albus, just again conferring with the legislative clerk that we already have voted on 132. We would require, if we went back to unanimous consent, to go back to 132. MP Albus?
Yep, so I would just ask for unanimous consent, just to at least have it tabled, and then we can let the debate go. Thank you.
Okay. Members?
No.
Okay, there's a no. Okay. Can't go back. Okay, so I'm just going to, again, confer with the legislative clerk here, so. So we do still have CPC 5 before us, so the committee does have to look to okay, so before we go to CPC 5, if MP Albus is looking to withdraw CPC 5?
Well, if there's no support for it to move forward, is there a possibility we can just simply amend it, or is it we're just done? I think the committee has expressed its views.
Yeah, so you could look to have a sub-amendment to your amendment on CPC 5.
Yes, I would move that to change it from clause 133 to 132.
Again, MP Albus, you would need unanimous consent.
Okay, yeah, I know how this movie works, Mr. Chair, so I'll just simply say I think it's really unfortunate that rather than voting down a motion that the government clearly doesn't support, they're continuing to try to use other means. But you know what? I'm a big boy. I respect other members of Parliament have the right to intervene and to deny unanimous consent, and that's something that we can do on a regular basis if necessary. So.
Thank you, MP Albus. So we're just going to go to 133. MP Albus, just for clarity, were you withdrawing your CPC 5? Yes, okay. So, and we would need it? Yeah, we would also need unanimous consent to withdraw CPC 5. Do we have unanimous consent for the withdrawal of CPC 5? I am seeing from, I see some members' hands up. I don't know, is it on this, MP Saint-Marie?
Oui.
Yes, it's a comment connected with what Mr. Albus said, because we have an omnibus bill, mammoth bill that's over 104 pages. We are looking at 502 clauses plus the annex, and because the amendment that was moved, which we should be able to discuss, had a mistake that was numbered out by 1, procedurally, that means that we can't discuss it. And I find that really unfortunate. I think it really is poisoning the atmosphere here at the committee. Whether you're voting for or against it, that is one thing, but we should be able to debate it. There's a slight mistake, and now we'll never be able to discuss it, and that will have real consequences for the producers of wine. I find that really unfortunate, and I really wanted to share that with you and with my colleagues. I'm really not happy with what's happening here. Thank you, Mr. Saint-Marie.
Mr. Tsah's hand up. Mr. Tsah?
Yes, sorry, we weren't sure whether it was okay for officials to jump in with this earlier, but it relates also to BQ4. We think that may have also amended the wrong section. BQ4 appears to amend the taken for use provisions of the Canadian wine exemption, but we think it intended to amend both 131 and 132 for it to work as intended, because it's actually the packaged provisions in clause 132, section 135 of the Excise Act 2001 that apply to the consumer market. So as passed, BQ4 would only apply to taken for use cider and mead, which is cider and mead that's consumed on site by the producer or something like that, not for packaged for the consumer market.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tsa. Conferring again with the legislative clerk, we would require unanimous consent, members, if we were to go back to BQ4 to open that back up.
Give it to him, yeah. Sure.
Members? Yeah, MP Chatel?
Yeah. You're asking unanimous consent on a correction of a proposal by, no, okay. Sorry.
Chair, could I request a short suspension so we can discuss?
Thank you.
I think that's a good idea. Let's suspend for a couple of minutes. We are back, and I do see a hand up, MP Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I believe I have a solution for the impasse, but I'm going to require another 2 minutes. So if I could ask for the committee's ability to just suspend for another 2 minutes, and I have an outstanding text message that I need responded to. So if you give us 2 minutes, I think I have a resolution that will get us past this.
Okay, we will suspend for a couple of more minutes. We haven't got
Thank
too
you,
much
sir.
time. We're here till 6:20, members.
Understood.
Okay, MP Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A barrage of text messages were exchanged between different members. Now, obviously, we're in a position where full cards on the table, we're not necessarily in favor of either of these going through. That being said, I am inclined to ensure that there is procedural fairness given what the will of the committee is, and given how important I think it is for constructive work to continue at this committee. I would seek for unanimous consent to allow both the Block 4 amendment and the CPC amendment, just to correct the dates to stand, that Block 4, the results of the Block 4 motion stand as voted on, with Liberal members voting against. And then we continue debate on CPC 5.
Thank you, MP Beach. MP Beach, Block 4 was adopted. Yes, 6-5.
Right, but wasn't there an issue around it being drafted incorrectly?
There was. What we came to learn was it should have been in clause 30. Is that correct? Based on what the officials had to say in clause 130?
Apparently,
What?
we would have to clarify.
The official, Mr. Tsa.
Hi, yes. So I've been advised also further by colleagues at Justice that both motions are also incomplete. So BQ4 is trying to amend clause 131, but it should actually amend both clause 131 and clause 132. And the same thing for CPC 5, which is trying to amend clause 133, but actually means to amend clause 131 and clause 132. So I don't know procedurally what it means if the motion is incomplete on the committee's end, but this is what I've been advised.
We have minutes left. The legislative clerk has informed me that we would need a written version, corrected written version, to be able to inform the members and the committee before we were able to move forward.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, sorry, Gabriel, do you mind if I jump the line? Thank you, sir. If I may, Mr. Chair, given that there are, I think, what was it, 13 minutes left, I think you said, maybe 12 minutes left now. I think we've had a very productive day. I think that there's going to need to be some work on this specifically. So perhaps we leave this here where it is now and come back tomorrow and pick it up. And that'll give us time for members from various parties to talk. And if we need to draft something, we can work on that as well.
If so, there's no debate.
MP Beach, are you putting forward a motion that the committee now adjourn?
I am.
Okay, there will be no debate then. Members, shall the committee adjourn? Yes. Okay, we're adjourned.